In 1635, Boston Latin School became the first public school as well as the oldest existing school in the U.S. In 1791, individual states took control of education when the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified. In 1837, the state created the nation's first Board of Education, naming Horace Mann as its secretary.
With these great changes in our education system have also come many new policies and smaller changes within them. In 2001, President George W. Bush enacted the No Child Left Behind Act. This act reauthorized the Elementary and Secondary Education Act that was a part of President LBJ's Great Society program. It was passed in 1965 and created a very clear role for the national government in K-12 education, and it gave over $1 billion per year to help cover the cost of educating students in disadvantaged situations. The law continued to be added to and changed until the No Child Left Behind Act was passed. This act was created by a collaboration between Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill and the Bush administration, which sought to close the achievement gap between poor and minority students and their more advantaged peers. States did not have to comply with the new regulations, but if they didn't want to risk losing their funding, then they would have to. By 2015, there had been so much talk on both sides of this act that Congress took all of the national features away from it. The act was replaced by the Every Student Succeeds Act. This program supports standard-based on education reform based on setting higher standards and establishing goals that are achievable and can continue to be improved. President Barack Obama said that the goals of the No Child Left Behind Act, the predecessor of this law, were the right ones: high standards, accountability, closing the achievement gap. But in practice, it often fell short. It didn't always consider the specific needs of each community. It led to too much testing during classroom time. It often forced schools and school districts into cookie-cutter reforms that didn't always produce the kind of results that we wanted to see. With this act, states must develop assessments in basic skills in order to receive federal school funding. Students have to be assessed in certain areas. Each state has developed their own assessments to deliver to their students. The way in which the federal government has expanded its role has been by adding a stronger emphasis on annual testing, annual progress reports, and teacher qualifications, along with changes in funding. This bill passed through Congress with bipartisan support. The Every Student Succeed Act says that states must test students in the same grade, but they now have flexibility as to when and how. One test can be broken up into multiple smaller ones. Emphasis on different types of testing has been set to accurately measure how and what students are learning. Accountability has been left almost completely up to the states. They must still submit their plans to the U.S. Department of Education. The federal government has become more specific as to which schools need intervention, but less specific on what these interventions should be. In 2016, the federal government allocated $24.9 billion to spend in education, but this number is expected to rise to $25.8 billion by 2020.
As has been true in previous years, Americans give relatively high grades to the public schools in their own communities. This year, 48% of them gave a grade of A or B, compared to 40% in 1992. But they give lower grades to public schools in the nation as a whole. When asked most policy questions, the public opinion changes slowly, if at all. But when new issues arise, important shifts can occur before opinion sorts itself into settled patterns. Upon occasion, critical events can jar opinion from settled patterns into a new equilibrium. During the 8 years that the Education Next poll has been administered to a representative sample of American adults, we have only seen minimal changes from one year to the next on such important issues as charter schools, merit pay, teacher tenure, teacher unions, and tax credits that fund private school scholarships. That pattern persists into 2014, despite heated public disputes concerning many of these topics. Sometimes, however, sharp changes in opinion do occur. For example, the share of the public that say it favors the Common Core state standards slipped noticeably between 2013 and 2014. Establishing a common set of standards across states is a new policy proposal that emerged as a public issue only in 2011. And it appears as if many citizens have yet to decide where they stand on the matter.
There is still great controversy over many topics relating to our nation and education. The issue of separating school and church has always been relevant and still is. A lot of debate has come up over the line in the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God. Class ranking and state testing are also issues that have been debated on and will continue to be debated on for years to come.